Meewasin has been around for some 36 years, but not a lot of people know a lot about Meewasin. Today I've invited Doug Porteous from Meewasin to give us some more insight about the history and future development plans for the organization. Doug, thanks so much for making time.
Thanks a lot, Randy. I've watched you on TV for the last year or so, and I've always wondered, how can I get on this program with you? So this is a highlight for me right now. Oh,
Perfect.
fantastic.
Maybe start with a little bit about yourself and the organization. Where did the organization get its origins from, and how did it start?
Well, in the early 1970s, an immediate threat to the tradition of public ownership for the riverbank led to the creation of Meewasin. And Meewasin was created in 1979 by an act of the province. It is a partnership of the city, the province, and the university who felt they could best manage their riverbank lands through one organization. And by anyone's measure, this Meewasin Valley project, first envisioned by master planner Raymond Mariama back in 1978, it has been just a tremendous success. There are 25 square miles in the conservation zone, and what I mean by that is that any development in the conservation zone, Meewasin has to approve of if it's more than $25,000. Doesn't matter who the landowner is. So we have this beautiful ribbon of green going through the city as a result. There's 80 kilometers of Meewasin Trail now, and anybody who goes out in Saskatoon and talks about the valley, and they always talk about their experiences out on this beautiful trail. And in fact, I think it was the Star Phoenix did the 50 best reasons to love Saskatoon. People wrote in, and 25 or 26 of them had to do with the Meewasin Valley, the trail, the skating rink. 90% of the general public approve of Meewasin and want the concept to continue. But you're a businessman, and this will appeal to you. Of the more than $100 billion that Meewasin has spent in park and trail development in the last 36 years, only $18 million has come from the local taxpayers. So the leveraging effect is 5 to 1. It's just tremendous for Saskatoon. And Meewasin is known and studied in landscape architect classes around the world as to what a community can do to conserve a river valley for now and for future generations. If I could, I'd like to tell you just a little about the Meewasin budget this past year. I was referring to it. Our financial highlights, and the best way to tell you about Meewasin is to kind of tell you about our annual report and what we've done this past year. Of the $4.5 million that we spent in conservation programs, in development and education, 20% came from the province. 16% from the city, that's $724,000, which has to be spent on park and trail development. 15% from the university, and the rest, just special grants, municipal, provincial, and our own fund development programs. And so again, very significant for the people in Saskatoon, the leveraging effect. Now this past year, if I could, I want to tell you about what we did. We completed, and this would be our budget year from 2014 to 2015, April 1st to March, the end of March, yes. We completed the second year of a major capital campaign for the purpose of extending the Meewasin Trail, and that went from 15 kilometers was extended, 8 kilometers connecting the city of Saskatoon to the Wanuskewin World Heritage Site. And Wanuskewin was created by Meewasin many years ago and then gradually turned over to its own board. So that's one of the Meewasin projects. And then in the southeast, we connected Diefenbaker Park to Chief Whitecap Park. That was another 7 kilometers. Tomorrow, we're having what I call a soft opening. We want the public to be aware of this trail connection. And at 10 o'clock in the morning on October 16th, we're going to have a group of students from the Eco-Justice class from St. Edward's School. Little news conference, and then they're going to ride that 7 kilometers out to Chief Whitecap Park. And so that's happening. Lots of people use the trail to walk, to run, to roll. A lot of functions go along with these things. There are a number of events. We have a photo there of a number of students about 150 volunteers, students, pensioners, Humanity First, and Meewasin planted 1,700 trees in that one particular area on that southeast trail extension. So when you look at the volunteerism and the ownership that takes place, it's another great thing that happens in the river valley. And nobody's going to come along and destroy that natural area that people have participated in Saskatoon. So that ownership, the ability to have that is so important. We completed work at River Landing 2. Originally, back in 2004, the provincial government gave Meewasin $4 million to start the process of developing River Landing. Meewasin raised another $9 million through federal, provincial, municipal, and major corporations and private and public donors to develop River Landing 1, and then we moved on and developed River Landing 2 over in Riversdale there, which you'd be familiar with. Mm-hmm. And the last thing that we needed to do was complete that adult fitness center. Now, it looks to me like you've been down there on a daily basis working on it. Well, no, I think you've been down on a daily basis. So, and that was a major project for us to complete that. We target an area, we make a deal with a landowner, and then we develop it for free public access, and then we move on. And what's so important are our volunteer donors and supporters in that to help what we do. All the interpretive wayfinding and temporary signage in the valley and that is Meewasin. So we have our summer students going out installing and cleaning and writing new ones that we put in so people know where they're going, what they're doing, how far the distances are. We completed a major review of existing Meewasin Trail infrastructure. And we know that of the 80 kilometers of trail that we have right now linking parks and interpretive centers and boat launches, canoe launches, we know that in the future we're going to need annually about $578,000 or $600,000 a year annually just to maintain that and keep it up to a standard. When we look at our counts on the trails, you get down to the Mendel, or the old Mendel area right now at this point, it's very crowded down there, and we should double the width of those trails if you're down in that area. And there's other places where there's blind corners, there's other places where people are asking for lighting.
Safety is involved.
Yeah, it's very, very important for all of that. And we know that has to be maintained, and we've figured out what the cost would be for us to keep that up to a standard that would be acceptable and best for all. We work on the basis of the Moriama 100-year plan, but we divide that into a 20-year plan, and then we divide that into a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan, and then our budget becomes our 1-year plan. So Wes Bolstad, who was a policy writer for the provincial, or for the university, for the provincial government, and he was the one who first came up with this concept, so very much oriented in that direction that we have 1, 5, 10, 20, 100-year plan, and we know where we're going. And we're 36 years into the Moriama plan at this point. We reviewed 15 proposed improvements to the river valley. The MVA Act enables coordination and control over the development, conservation, maintenance, and improvement of land within the conservation zone. And so anybody that is creating something or building something and the cost is more than $25,000, then they have to come to Meewasin for approval. And that we call development review. So that development review committee is advised by a statutory committee of professional planners, architects, landscape architects, engineers, geotechnical engineers, who volunteer to sit on the committee. So they're from the community. And that's community ownership and what's taking place and what's happening. So this, Meewasin is based on that. Whether it be our conservation programs, our development programs, our education programs, we have advisory committees from the community. This past year we enhanced biodiversity, and the best way for me, I know what you know what biodiversity means, but for the general public out there, if you had a river without water, it would not be biodiverse. You need that water to have the river. Biodiverse is an ecosystem that's natural, that works together, where life relies on other life, and we enhance that through grazing, burning, removal of exotic species. We have had plant species they come on ships and in containers and that over the years. Purple lulustrife, the European buckthorn, Kentucky bluegrass, things that have come in, and what they do is they take over the natural environment. And so we are always working to stop that from happening. And one of the ways is we go back to the natural ways. We can use chemicals, and sometimes we have to. We can use fire. And in fact, Saskatoon Natural Grasslands, we were using fire one time, and unfortunately some fella came and tried to put it out and was fined $100 in district court for trying to put out a fire that was coming. But it was well contained.
Burn,
it was a controlled burn.
Yeah.
And but the natural way would be, well, using machinery would be cutting it down.
Yeah.
But then sheep are great, and our sheep herder that we normally use is Jared Epp. Just a great fella, and we have a herd of sheep either at the grasslands or at Beaver Creek Conservation Area or out at the Meewasin Northeast Swale, and it's just working his dogs there, and it's just a wonderful thing to see, and we make the national news when we do that, whether it be through Shaw or whether it be through the other stations. And companies will support us. You know, it can be the banking companies or some of the major offices that are in town, world offices there like Cameco and Potash Corps. The RBC sponsored the sheep grazing program this past year through their Blue Water project. So we rely on an awful lot of support that way. This year we completed the 7th year of what we call MAPS, and that's Monitoring Avian Productivity and Survivorship. It's a bird banding program. It's out of California, and data from the monitoring stations are collected, and we find out where the birds are, where they came from. We weigh them, what sex they are, what bird keeps coming back to the area, and we have 20 common ones that would return to Saskatoon, and some come back 3, 4, or 5 times. But they're like the canaries in the coal mine. How the birds go, the bird population go, is eventually how the human population will go. And if we are having a concern about the bird population, all it is a red flag as to what's going to happen in the future. So these monitoring programs are very important.
I think it's all important for keeping track of what's going on in that river valley, but we're just not going to fly away just for a minute. We'll be right back after this break.